Hello everybody, today I'm bringing you a special layout and it's based on this sketch by Laura Whitaker. I was a past member of the Victoria Marie Facebook group design team, and this is this week's weekly challenge for that Victoria Marie Facebook group design team, brought to you by Swann. I decided to make sure to participate this week just because I love sketches, and I also love Sarah actually as a YouTuber too. She's one of my favorites to watch. So anyway, to get started with the video, I've decided to, unlike the layout, I'm going to frame my background paper just because the love this paper by Maggie Holmes seems to sort of fall off the edge of the layout if it doesn't have something to sort of trap it onto the page. So that's why I'm going to use this Maggie Holmes spring paper from the Bloom collection. That's the peachy pink color there. And what I did here is I gutted that paper because I really want to I want the banner to be made out of that paper as well too. I did, once I cut this, when I cut it, I cut it 10 inches by 10 inches by 10 inches, but what I wasn't thinking is really when I did that, that meant there was only a 6-inch circle, or 6-inch square left in the middle. So not quite the best thing to do, but in the end it all works out. That 6 inches of paper that I had left was more than enough to make the banner. I was just really concerned about it once I realized what I had done. And what I did there to help stop the Love This paper, I also inked it with my Tim Holtz vintage photo ink. It's the brown I use a lot, and it's the brown Shamel uses, in case any of you are wondering. And what I'm doing there is I'm just trying to get the layers now to be a little bit more even, trying to decide about how much paper I think I'm going to need. I have a frame there, and that frame I believe is from Maggie Holmes' open book. I have all of my frames kind of together in one pack now, but I'm pretty sure that's open book. And then that blue floral paper there, kind of looks like denim, is from the Maggie Holmes Bloom collection, and that's the Wonderful paper. And then this yellow paper is also from Bloom. I haven't really used much of my Bloom collection yet, but that yellow paper is from Bloom, and it's called Garden Party. So now these are the basic elements that I'm going to be using to construct this layout. And what I'm doing there is I'm trying to decide, I cut that paper, the blue paper, at a 4-inch wide, and when I put it all together, I didn't really like how wide that was. And so I went back and I cut one that's, I think this new one is 5 inches wide. And now I'm going to fool around with this a lot, the spacing there. I don't typically like it when I have an element like a frame where you can see other papers sticking out. So if I had done this, personally myself, drawn the sketch, I would have put that blue paper in behind that frame so that you couldn't see it at the peach paper at all. Now, is it a big deal? Really, no, it's not. I was just being a little silly and fussy about it, just because that's the way I kind of normally scrap. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing design wrong with it as well. It's just that's the way it is. You can see a little bit more of a couple of the papers there in the frame. And that's one of the reasons, by the way, that a lot of times I have a hard time using frames, is because I don't put photos in them very often, and when you use them on papers, when you layer a lot, like I do, a lot of times you can see them. So anyway, or you can see the other patterns peeking through, which isn't a bad thing, unless you're me. So anyway, there was a circular element in that sketch towards that left side there, and now I'm going to play around a little bit with doilies. The white doily was too white, and I kind of knew that, but tried it anyway because this is a cream background. That's a Studio Calico doily on there right away. And I just cut down that brown craft dot paper. That's from the confetti line, and it's a scrap. I don't have the name of that paper, but it is confetti. And what I'm discovering here as I'm working with this is my layers are shifting a little bit too much, and I'm getting to the point where I need to really start making some decisions. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to start inking up papers and then gluing things down. So I inked up that blue paper there. This is a yellow doily from Recollections. You can get these in their party section, I believe. And so now I'm just kind of playing with it. Now I do like this 4-inch size here more than I liked. In that case, it was a 6.5-inch size, I think, of the, or 6-inch size. It is a 6-inch with the gold. I like the 4-inch size better, but I believe, if I remember correctly, that I am going to play around with that doily quite a bit yet. Because now what I did is I changed out the yellow for the gold version of that, the smaller version of that gold doily that I had on there before. So inking up the papers, and you can see as I ink these, what's happening here. You can really see the definition up against the paper. So especially if you look at this, the edge of that left edge of that blue paper, you can really see how defined that is against the white background there. The other thing that inking will do, and you'll hear this, you know, Chamel's really known for this as well, is if papers are from different collections, especially different manufacturers, it can really help bring them together cohesively. It'll help make them look like they are more from one collection. Now here, most of my papers are from the one collection. There's a few things that aren't, but they are. Most of them are. And what I'm doing here is I'm cutting my banner. So what you do to cut a banner pretty easily, and I'm kind of off camera here, but you cut into the center of the paper, and then you cut from the corners into the center, and most of the time, if things are working well, that will give you an even fishtails on the banner. I certainly do it and sometimes don't get them even. So, you know, and I'm looking at this now and I'm wondering why I was fussing so much about those papers, because I think they look great. I don't think there's an issue here at all. And I'll tell you, as I'm looking at this in real time when I was making this, I was looking at that gold doily and I was really feeling like it needed something to balance. Well, actually, I should say, something was bothering me about that gold doily. And I thought it was because it was the only gold thing on the layout. And I thought, well, maybe, you know, once I put some more gold on the layout, that'll balance it. But that's not, as I'm really thinking about it, I'm deciding I'm going to change that in just a little bit, or change the, not just the gold doily, but also how I'm using that doily, or actually how I'm going to add another doily to it. So what I did there is I just took out my huge roll of Scotch foam adhesive there, and this is why I love this big roll, because I don't worry so much about the fact that I'm using this, because if I'd done with this with the smaller rolls, I would have used up half the roll. But you can buy that roll on Amazon. It's really big. I think it's more than 12 inches in diameter when you get it. I've used more than half of mine. I've had mine for somewhere between 1.5 years and 2 years. And what this is helping me do with this foam tape, because the chipboard is really raised pretty high on that and the photo's going over it, I need to get something up underneath that photo so it doesn't crinkle. All right, so now I looked at this and decided that I wanted a doily on the upper right of the cluster of pattern paper there, because that's going to help balance out the doily on the bottom left. Now, these are not the doilies that I'm going to end up using in the end, but now, and to my eye right now too, just looking at this, it really helps balance it. So I pulled this black foam thicker word from Amy Tangerine there. It's from the font is called Twins. And when I tried to pull it off the sheet, it really stuck down and I broke it between the N and the D. But I'm still going to use it. I'm just going to end up having to just kind of stick it together. Now, I had to take an unexpected pause there, so I switched the video a little bit there, and when I came back and just looked at it, I wasn't loving those two small gold doilies. So I tried going back to the big gold doily and decided I didn't like that either. So back to the small doily again, and I'm positioning the word wonder. The title, if I remember correctly, in the sketch was up on the upper left hand side, but I thought that just called too much attention to it, and the black up there, I didn't have enough black in it. The black in the word now with the black of the photograph there really helps sort of bring the title into the layout there. And then what I did is I cut a little word strip there that says Happy Memory from the Maggie Holmes Bloom paper. It's called the Sweet Rose paper from Bloom. So that gets the black up there as well too. So now what I did is I went back to those Yellow Recollections doilies, and I like them a lot better. They're a little bit less attention grabbing, I guess is the best way to describe how I think these look on this layout. I think it blends better. That photo is just a photo that I took with my camera phone. I was driving home from work one night, and it's actually giving a pretty good color on this video, but the sky was just the most gorgeous colors of pink and yellow and orange, and from the yellow sun and the pink sky, it made it orange. And then the sky was a little bit blue above that. It was pretty cloudy. It was just absolutely gorgeous. So what I did was I pulled over to the side of the road, I promise, rolled down my window and took this photograph just because it was so gorgeous. I watched this sunset off to my left for quite a while on my way home. When it wasn't out in front of me, it was to my left. All right, so now what I did is I took out a sheet of the chipboard from the Crepe Paper Notes and Things collection, and I'm going to experiment a little bit. There's this peachy colored label there, and I like it, but it's not going to make it on the label because once I make my decisions, it's not going to make it. So I did pull this floral cluster because it had the yellow and it had the peachy and the pinky colors in there, which goes great with this layout, but I wasn't sure how I wanted to position it, so I grabbed a piece of my wax paper that I had used to move my title around on so that I could move that chipboard piece around as well. And I pulled the Good Stuff chipboard from there. I'm playing around with this little prize banner as well. That won't stay on there. And then I also pulled off that little label there that says Monday because this was a Monday, but that is not going to stay there. And I'm still playing around trying to figure out what I want to do, if I wanted to use that label or not. And you know, now that I'm looking at it, it actually looks okay when I'm seeing it on the video. I could have left that. I just thought when I used it, or when I was playing with this a little bit, that it just, I don't know, it felt like it was too much on the layout in person, too much raised things, because the floral cluster's raised, the frame's raised, and the Good Stuff label is raised. Although I do add one more element here. As I'm looking at this when I was actually doing this in real time, what one of the things that I wasn't liking is it felt like there wasn't any black on the right side of the layout there, over by the doily or wherever on the right side. And I really wanted to get something over there. So I'm going to do something about that in just a minute. And remember what I said before about helping things blend together? You know, these are a couple of different Crate Paper / Maggie Holmes collections. And I'm really helping blend them together with that ink. Okay. So now I am gluing down edges. A lot of the edges were sticking up pretty far here, and since I have chipboard down, I wanted to make sure those were really far down too. So what I'm doing here is I'm going through my die cut packs, which are sitting off to my left there from Crate Paper, just to try to find some things that will go on here. And I'm looking specifically for black when I find this piece of, it's just a black die cut strip here. And that is from the confetti collection, the Crate Paper confetti collection. It's from the ephemera there. This is going to cause a problem in just a minute because I'm going to end up ripping that doily and I'll have to cut another one. And I ripped it right there. So anyway, I have a lot of these, so to pull one more is not that big of a deal. One of the things I want to tell you that you don't see on this is today I went to photograph this layout and it just didn't look complete to me. It felt a little bare. So right before I photographed it, I realized it really just needed some enamel dots, and I added gold enamel dots to each of the clusters. So the floral cluster, the good stuff cluster, and then the happy moments words phrase strip up there. You'll see the enamel dots in the still shots, and those enamel dots are from Recollections. So just be on the lookout for that. I'm not going to journal on this layout. I think the photo speaks for itself, and the title does as well. So what I'm doing is I'm going through my date stamp collection. I have these 3 and then a Christmas one. And I'm finding the proper phrase, or the phrase that I really like. And there's a phrase on that Studio Calico stamp there that I have in my hand that says, love, love, love. So I'm going to stamp that phrase with the date, and that's all the journaling I'm going to do on this. I know, shocking. Normally I'm, doing that a lot. So I'm just stamping on a border strip there just to make sure that I have the right date and everything, and it's in the right place. And I just decide here that it didn't fill up enough, so I stamped it a couple times without re-inking. Here is the still and a couple of detail shots. Hope you are all well. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.